my fellow readers, it's Dark Symphony 777 with another fan fiction review. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notifications, leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts of the story. And finally, this is my opinion. My opinion is not indicative of everyone in the world, so please respect that. So, the story I am doing today is Touhou, Unsubstantial Underground Adventure by Eins445. It is a Touhou project and Undertale crossover, and there is honestly a lot I want to say about the story. Not a lot of it good. I did not like this. So, let's get started with kind of a lead up into the plot, because there is a couple things I need to say about this specific grouping before getting to the plot. It is the fact that I am a fan of Touhou. I'm not a long time fan, but but if you actually saw earlier videos, I did actually play Touhou 1. I do eventually plan on playing through all of the Touhou games. Eventually, I hope I'm not like 100 before I get to like Touhou 10 or something like that. Oh no. Mommy Kanako, what are you doing? No, don't kill me. I'm dead. But I do know that there was like a rivalry between these two fandoms. Something about an animation between Chara and Sakuya Zoai. And I wasn't really that much aware of that. I was kind of like, at the time, I only knew about Undertale. Everyone knew about Undertale, so I was like, what the hell is Touhou? I'm just gonna skip it. And the fact that Undertale did take some inspiration from Touhou. I believe Toby Fox is actually a fan of the franchise. He seems to really like the Ron, I think. But regardless, when I came across the story, because I was kind of curious, seeing if there's any good Touhou fan fictions, because at the time I was finishing up with Being Mei Ling when I came across the story. It's like, I'll come back to this. Because honestly, all I read was this. The synopsis, because, you don't always read the whole story. You read the synopsis, see how that catches your eye, and then you read it out later time. And it's the synopsis that caught my eye. Basically, an idea of Rimu, the main protagonist of the Touhou franchise, basically kind of going through the events of Undertale in place of Frisk. That doesn't seem like a bad idea. So I held this off until now, and I read through it, and I didn't like it. So why don't I like it? Well, let's start with the plot. Well, the plot is basically as the synopsis said. It's literally just the events of the events of Undertale, with just Rimu in place of Frisk. And with all the benefits that Rimu has from her franchise, meaning she can fly, she can float, she's also not a kid. You can see where I'm going with this. More or less, the key events of Touhou do happen. It's just a lot of it is cut by Rimu being just completely apathetic, or Rimu just flying over everything. Like, there's the part. Granted, there are some parts that are kind of extended. Like, there's the part with Rimu doing the riddles for Papyrus, and she comes across the letter, and she's like, "Oh, it must be a super secret test." It's like, and she's reading the paper, and even Sans like, she actually fell for it. They part. She fell for it. It's like, can you quiet? I'm trying to read this. I'm trying to figure this riddle out. I didn't think she would find out. I didn't think she would fall for it. No, me either. But on more or less, it's pretty much just an abridged version of Undertale. That is the A plot. The main plot is basically everyone freaking out over Rimu disappearing. Spoiler alert, she fell asleep. I'll get to that in a bit because trust me, we're gonna talk about that. Where everyone is basically just goofing off with Marissa trying to get a search party and everyone doing and all like the big names of the Touhou world, except Yukari, who's mysteriously missing because of course Yukari's missing because that's what Yukari does. I don't know why I did that on Yukari, but you get the point. If you played the Touhou franchise and you don't understand the bare lore of it, that's another thing I'm going to have to talk about in this video. Yukari going missing means she's probably involved in it. Bam. Spoiler alert, she's involved in it. And basically, half of the story is just Rimu speedrunning Undertale, while the other half is just Marissa scrounging up a search party and mainly just hanging out with Monotobe Fudo. Does that have to do with anything involving Rimu? Absolutely nothing. That's the first problem with the story. That entire search party story is irrelevant. It got to the point that near the end, I just started skipping it because I realized this is leading nowhere, isn't it? And guess what? It leads nowhere because instead of trying to figure everything out, that plot specifically just boils down to various people going to the mountain, meeting the ruler, and just saying, "Oh, Rimu's not there." If you know Touhou, then you know Rimu. Then you know that Undertale takes place in the mountain. Yeah, she's not in the mountain, but I need to. I gotta address that later. But by and large, they barely even just search. They just form the search party, and it's just basically just everyone trying. It's like the author just trying to shove as many Touhou characters with different names as possible in the story, just to shove the Touhou characters. Yeah, I get it. There's a lot of Touhou characters, but do any of them contribute anything to the story? Yukari does, but outside of her, no. No, Marissa doesn't matter. Futo doesn't matter. Sakuya doesn't matter. Miko doesn't matter. Shimiamaru doesn't matter. Raisen doesn't matter. Suika, okay, fine. Suika kind of matters. She's the one who finds Rimu. But Alice doesn't matter. Carlson doesn't matter. Like, even like the quick cameo of Dorme at the very end of the story doesn't matter. None of these characters matter. How do you do? It's not even just it's just like you probably just put one person. No, it's just if I had to take a guess, there's like 20 or 30 something Touhou characters in this side plot, all just going around doing the same thing. Oh, I went to the mountain, met the ruler, and Rimu's not there, but Rimu's missing. It's like Rimu's not there. She had to have fallen somewhere. I don't know. Rimu always goes. If she's not at the shrine, she's not at the mountain. Where is she? I don't know. Let's just mess around and beat up people in spell card battles for giggles. I don't know. Like, why? That entire side plot had like nothing to do. I can understand if there was some point to the side plot, and there's very, very vaguely a semblance of a point, but you didn't have to. But that point didn't have to take up half of the story to kind of explain. You didn't have to do that because, of course, Yukari's involved. You could have just had Yukari show up at the end, ba and would have just explained. Hell, Yukari does show up at the end and more or less explains it. And in that one conversation Yukari has with Marissa is done better for this entire side plot than anything Marissa and Futo or Miko or Byakurin or Kasen did. There is no point to that. There is no point where a single conversation between Yukari and Marissa did that entire side plot better than half of the story. How do you fuck that up? Just how? Okay. I'm done with that. I'm done with that side plot. I don't have to bring up that side plot ever again. Main plot. Rimu basically speedruns the entirety of Undertale. Because so much of it is speedrun because you have to run and walk and figure out the puzzles and everything. But since Rimu can fly, Rimu bypasses all that. Okay, that's understandable. Rimu, basically everyone can fly. And Rimu, she has the power to float. For those of you who don't understand Touhou, Rimu's ability is canonically stated to be the ability to float. And I don't mean floating like, oh, she can... Yeah, she can do that too. But by floating, she can literally even float out of reality itself. This is actually, I believe, kind of an in-universe explanation of why her Rimu's hitbox is so small. She basically floats most of herself out of reality except for like the little hit piece to kind of justify the grazing mechanic and stuff like that. I don't know for sure with that explanation, but that's more likely my interpretation. She just floats most of her body out of the way, except for where she gets hit to kind of justify making her hitbox so small. She does meet all of the all the main characters of Undertale. So she runs into Toria, she runs into Papyrus, she runs into Sans, she runs into Metaton, she runs into Alphys, she runs into even Monster Kid and Undyne and Asgore at the end, and of course Flowey shows up. She even runs into Muffet, because despite the fact Muffins I think is optional. But overall, she meets the gamut, and it's based. And on that side, the long and short of it is, it's literally just an abridged version of Undertale. Nothing really changed. Well, one thing changes in the overall structure of one of the parts of the story, and that's when she gets to Hotland. I'm going to talk about Hotland later. So bear with me in the fact that I do want to talk about Hotland. But outside of Hotland, nothing really changes. And that's going to be a theme that as you read the story, you'll notice one peculiar thing. Nothing changes at all. The plot doesn't change that much because we're supposed to expect them to kind of change text based on the fact that Rimu is not human. In fact, it's like, oh, humans are flying? Humans are doing this? Even when the author deliberately introduces kind of an amalgamation of both the Touhou mechanics and the Undertale mechanics. So Rimu even fights in the way Undertale does, but she has the broken ability to just completely do a counterattack a la Touhou with using a bomb. And a lot of characters just flat out call about it. It's like, you're cheating. You're hitting me while I'm going. It's like, I don't care. I'm the protagonist. I'm Rimu. I'm a shrine maiden. I keep you all. Which leads us into the characters. So I've said all I could say about the side plot. What the main plot is, nothing changes with the characters. Now, I will say this. all the Undertale characters, they have a very specific reason why they don't change characters. But I'm gonna leave. But that's kind of ties into the whole idea of why the plot doesn't change either. So I'm just like with the plot, I'm gonna have to wait until the end to kind of go into deep. But I want to have the character thing focus on Rimu. And the reason I want to specify just doing Rimu for right now is because of how she behaves in contrast or comparing to how she is in Touhou, or more accurately, how Touhou does a lot of its storytelling. So let me get a visual aid first. Ready, Mei-Ling? My visual aid right here. So, in order to kind of explain why I don't like Rimu in this story, I have to talk about a criticism I actually have with the Touhou franchise as a whole from a specific storytelling perspective. And I know a lot of people, if you're Touhou fans, you're probably gonna say, that's bullshit. Let me just hear me out. Just hear me out and hear my explanation before saying anything in the comments. I don't like how the Touhou franchise, by and large, is so incredibly vague in a lot of aspects. Again, let me hear me out. Now, I understand why this is deliberately, a lot of these aspects are deliberately made vague. Right from the plots to the characters to a lot of the esoteric stuff, the whole design philosophy, the world of Shinsokyo. Probably like 80% of all of Touhou is deliberately designed to be vague. Why is this? Well, because Zun, the creator of Touhou, deliberately made these things vague. Why? Because so he can allow the reader, well, not the readers, I say readers, the fans of the Touhou project, in order to explore what they want to see, i.e., how you want your characters to behave, how you want these scenarios to play out. He deliberately leaves all these things vague in order for the fans to enjoy themselves with the war and not war, world more, and try and do as much crazy and fun stuff that you want with the characters. However, that is, especially for a game that has lasted a very, very long time, like Touhou, the game has lasted, I think, at this point, almost 25 years. I think it was 1996 was the first game, right? I think it was the first 20. I'm gonna go on the edge. I'm going to err on the side of caution and say this game franchise has been 25 years, and throughout all those 25 years, granted it's less if you count Touhou 6 as a soft reboot, this game should not have lasted so long without being vague, because eventually there's going to reach a point where where everything being so massively vague is going to backfire, and that's usually when Zun tries to do like the canon mangas, like most instantly with Foul Detective Satori, where we're introduced to the jailbreak. I completely forgot what the character's name, because the character's name is really Misuchi Miyadejuchi. So here's the problem. So with Foul Detective Satori, it's basically just a story, a canon manga based around Satori Komeji, which was one of the characters introduced in Touhou Subterranean Animism. And she basically reads minds and goes on an adventure with Orin to find Mitsushi, who's basically has some unknown grudge against Rimu and is constantly possessing various characters to kind of disrupt reality. Problem is, they have to retcon a lot of. They actually supposedly had to retcon a lot of stuff from the lore, because everything was so vague, and Misuchi and some of the characters previously supposedly wouldn't make sense to be possessed, like Sawako because she's a god. This person could just randomly be completely bonkers and possess Sawako because she could. So they supposedly have to retcon a lot of stuff in order to kind of justify her being able to constantly squirm her way away from Satori and Rimu. That we still don't know why she hates Rimu. Like currently, I believe the manga is at like UFO arc, so with Byakuren and all that, and the Mioran crew. Not the Mioran crew. That's Sine. No, yeah, it's Mioran. Yeah, no, Mioran is Sine, right? I can't. I mix up those two. The UFO crew, the Byakuren's crew. And this sense of vagueness basically is kind of biting this manga in the butt, because now you're trying to fill in all these arcs and kind of get everyone up to speed, but now it's like everything's kind of so vague that you kind of that the author has that the manga has to actually make it up as they go along to justify keeping the story alive, which in Touhou, if it was the games, fine. But this is a manga where you're supposed to see more concrete stories. And it's gonna be really, and now it's biting it in the butt because now the author has to keep making stuff up to kind of justify keeping the manga alive and keeping it kind of going until its natural endpoint. I'm guessing probably until like Mitsuchi comes across Suiko or Yugi or something like that. My guess is that the jailbreaking can't handle her alcohol, and they're gonna have to like forcefully have her possess one of the Onis and just get her drunk. She's so drunk she can barely see. But yeah, but that is sort of like the double-edged sword. It's like, yeah, you can have everything vague, but when you have a franchise that has been vague for so long, it just collapses on itself narratively. Yeah, you could do lots of crazy stuff, but there comes a point you need to have some connective tissues with the characters, how everyone acts, now, and how the world acts to certain phenomena and everything like that. That also kind of carries over to the fan side, where I'm going to use my visual aid, where with certain characters, they're more well known by what the fans have basically turned the character into, to the point where a lot of people think the fan interpretations are canon. Take Mei Ling, for instance. In canon, she is actually pretty good at her job at being the gatekeeper of the Scarlet Devil Mansion. In fanon, she's basically a lazy bum. She's a lazy bum who lets everyone and anyone inside the store, inside the mansion, with barely any trying. And then she also gets beat up by Sakuya. You understand? You can understand where I'm at least coming from with my frustrations, right? You did a good job. My point that I'm leading up to this is there comes a point where you're trying to tell these types of stories, and because of how the fan interacts with the canon and everything kind of gets crisscrossed due to so much of the franchise being deliberately vague, that it just makes it hard to actually do anything with the characters, or because you don't know how they would actually react to a situation. You don't know how they would communicate or act with their characters, because everything's vague in the games, where everyone kind of has bad art and stuff like that, which leads us to Rimu in this story. So in canon, Rimu Hakure is a very, very somewhat lazy, very apathetic person. Now, in a story, you would want to see someone who's deliberately that, but also very, very willing to kill yokai. What is a man? Hold on. There you go. I've read it. There comes a point. Where was I? Oh yeah. With Rimu, she is very apathetic. She's very, very. She's lazy. It's implied that she kind of created the spell card system because she doesn't want to. She doesn't want to kill people on yokai unnecessarily. That's never been answered. I'm only taking a guess. It's only been very vaguely implied that she did it, although there's other hints that other people may have had a hand in it. She also is willing to purposely kill yokais. This Rimu is very much based mostly on what was the name of the manga? It was the one that introduced a Kyu, Kidea no Kyu, and it had the Night Scroll. Most famously, let me see. Night Parade. 100 demons. Yeah. Crap. Problem is, I completely forgot what. Hidea. No. Oh. There it is. Yeah. Let's see. No, it wasn't this one. It wasn't her. It was crap. It was another character. Give me a second. Forbidden Scrollery. And this Rimu is mostly based off the Rimu in here, where we see her being very apathetic. Basically being apathetic. Basically, the point of Forbidden Scrollery is the character on. I have to go back. Hold on. There. This character right here. Kozuzu. And the possibility that she may turn into a yokai. And basically, Yukari tasked Rimu to watch her. If she turns into a yokai, kill her. I think I believe what I heard when looking through like stuff related to this, like everyone kind of thought, oh, she's not gonna kill him because she's never really killed any yokai before. So it's like, especially if you play the games, you never really, starting from EOSD, Scarlet Devil, that she never really killed anyone. So I would honestly think most of the fan base was like, she's not going to do it. And then near the end of the book, where she runs into a fortune teller who basically turned himself into a yokai and said, I'm just going to live alone. Rimu's reaction is literally just split the guy in half and basically tells him point blank in a very, very apathetic tone, if you kind of read the story in your head, that she won't hesitate to kill if it means keeping the balance in Jinsokyo. And I killed you. So basically, it reveals that Rimu is very, very willing to kill if it means protecting the balance of Jinsokyo, just like Yukari. It's just Rimu is just very apathetic about things 90% of the time. Oh, going back to this story, what does Rimu's canon personality have to do with this fanfiction? I will tell you. She has no character outside of that. She doesn't develop as a character anymore. She doesn't get any growth. She doesn't have a character arc. Instead of doing what Falsatori is trying to do, where or any of the other mangas that are trying to do like different interpretation or trying to expand their characters, however they're trying to do under the possible guidance that that all the mangas who wrote all the Touhou mangas are basically are probably ordered under Zun to basically keep the things vague as well, which certainly doesn't help the franchise. Instead of trying to do something different, or hell, even like most of the fandom, how they interpret Rimu as like a super poor, greedy idiot who will like even eat dirt, who doesn't get any money or food. Granted, I believe she doesn't get that much money outside of like certain events in the mangas. And I think like Yukari supplies her with like a bunch of food too. But the point is, instead of trying to do something with Rimu, something unique, at least trying to develop her character, the author just plays her completely as a one-for-one interpretation from Forbidden Scrollery. And that completely sinks her character. Because she doesn't grow up, she doesn't learn a lot. Hell, even Sans kind of lampshades us like, well, I would tell you stuff, but I'm pretty sure you're not going to learn a lesson out of this. Ta-da. Now, like I said, she doesn't learn anything. Because her entire character throughout this entire story is just she comes across an Undertale character automatically assumes is a yokai and says, "I'm going to kill you," and they get upset, and then she just gets confused over why aren't you acting like yokai? I'm going to kill you anyway, and then just rinse and repeating in large swaths over the course of the story. Like, she meets Sans, I'm gonna kill you. She meets Papyrus, I'm gonna kill you. She meets Mettaton, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you. I'm going to kill you. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill. No, I can't kill. I can't kill you, Mei Ling. You're just this girl. You just don't worry. I'll get Kogasa once her Fumo comes out. Point is, her first response and her mindset just seemed to be a one-dimensional kill. And granted, she never goes through with this because of reasons. But it gets annoying, just like the B plot of constantly remind you, Rimu's not at the mountain, Rimu's not at the mountain, Rimu's not at the mountain. This is basically, with Rimu's side, it's basically, I want to kill you, I want to kill you, I want to kill you, and just acting so apathetic that even when she beats Asgore and Asgore dies at the end, and we get the Photoshop Flywheel fight, it's kind of indicative that Rimu doesn't kill anyone, but she's still forced. So basically, she fulfilled the criteria for a pacifist fight because she didn't kill anyone. But then she was shoved in a neutral route because she literally made everyone in the underground either scared of her or pissed them off. That even if she had a pacifist, no one would come for her. No one would save her. No one would try and help her and defeat Flyway. So we get the Hyper God Azrael fight. Fun fact: the Hyper God Azrael, I think, like the move with the fire's lasers is based off the Master Spark done by Murasa Kurosame. But that's neither here nor there. Point is, she's a one-dimensional nothing character. Now, I have read a fan fiction where it does a one-dimensional protagonist before in Fallout Equestria Pink Eyes, but the point in that story is Puppy Smiles, the main character of that story, acted as a fulcrum for the development of everyone else's character. Yeah, Puppy Smiles doesn't grow as a character because that's deliberate. Because of Puppy Smiles being in a fragmented memory, only being kept alive by just sheer willpower seeing her mom. But she was dead for like 200 years. But everyone she meets, they get the character development because they see Puppy Smiles. And when they see Puppy Smiles, they think back to what Equestria used to be. It would have been fine if it was kind of like the inverse, where like everyone was one-dimensional and they're trying to just basically help Rimu. But then Rimu is just like, eh. And at the end, like I said, what Sans says in the story, none of that matters. You're not going to learn anything. I can tell you till the sky comes home. You're just not learning a lesson. You're not learning anything. You're not going to learn a lesson. You're not going to be nicer. You're just going to be exactly the same. There's no character develops. There is no character growth. There is no arcs. There is no development. There is nothing. Rimu starts the story the same. She ends the story the same, and it's so mind-boggling with how free willing the Touhou community is with like reinterpreting characters, like with with Mei Ling of being a lazy bum, or with Junko being a bunny obsessed mother. You want the carrot, Ryson? I got the carrot. Let's go. Now bend over. Oh, eat the carrot. Here we go. Stuff like that. That the author, instead of trying to give us a random interpretation of Rimu to fit the story, just gives us forbidden scrollery Rimu. An apathetic nothing. Without trying to at least expand on the forbidden scrollery interpretation. Why? Just what? So, okay. So there's no point in the B plot. Now I'm implying that there's no point in the A plot. Yes! There is no point to any of this! What the fuck? How do you say 200, almost 250,000 words and have it all mean nothing? Zip, zilch, zero, nada, nil. Nothing matters. None of the plots matter. None of the characters matter. I will say this. From a pure writing standpoint, this story is actually written pretty well. Like from a purist standpoint, with like prose and dialogue, everything is done really, really well. There's no grammar errors. The pacing is absolutely really well done. The sentence structure is well done. Everything from a purist writing standpoint is immaculate. It's only when you get to the plot and Rimu that it just completely just goes into the Genbu River. Hi, Kamachi. Like, yes, like why? I'm just talking about it. Just makes me so frustrated how badly executed everything in this story is, and the fact that how close it was to actually being not even good, but like magnificent. Would I recommend this story? No, just the fact. I'm not even getting into the surprise of the ending, where, spoiler alert, since I'm at the end, Yukari set the whole thing up as a bet with Flowey. So basically, spoilers, Yukari basically goes to sleep. She turns into Maribel, if you believe that theory. Runs into Flowey because she finds out that the Mount Ebit, where Undertale took place, is basically they're being forgotten, and so she brings the mountain to Gensokyo, basically runs into Flowey and proposes a bet with him. Flowey and basically Rimu is put into a dream version of Undertale with the help of her and Flowey, and using Frisk as a dream conduit. They basically drug Rimu and basically knock her out, thanks to Yuyuko. And Rimu goes to the events of Undertale to see if even someone as apathetic and monstrous as her, someone like Rimu, would like forgive Flowey. And the whole story, and even the ending just kind of boils down to like Flowey asking Rimu, "Can I live with you?" "I'm gonna do it anyway." She say yes or no. Who did it? Fine. Hey! It just boils down to just Flowey living with Rimu. Like, why? So you spent 200,000 plus words to build up to the fact that Yukari just made a bet with Flowey to see if he can live with Rimu. Because Flowey wants someone to watch him in case he does anything bad. Then See, that's the maddening thing. It's not so much the end. There's not a point to both sides of the plot. No, it's just they end up to something that is just so completely meaningless because the author's trying to play like everything so straight and true to both Undertale and Touhou that the author takes like no liberties to try and have anything make sense. No, I'm going to keep everything super vague, just like canon, in a way to make it seem like a true Touhou experience. It didn't work. It doesn't work. Because guess what? Just like with the mangas, by deliberately making everything so vague, you pretty much sink the story. Because now everything is so vague, and now you just like, what's the point of this? What's the point of that? What's the point of this? What's the point in Mei Ling? What's the point of me holding Mei Ling? I don't know. Don't. What would be my favorite part though? The Hotland part. And this is where I at least have to give the author some credit, because instead of making things vague, this is even more surprising. Like why I said was this story was this close to being a great story was specifically because of Hotland. Because everything from before Hotland and after Hotland was pretty garbage because of just trying to keep everything, give that sense of vagueness and apathy that Rimu is. But with Hotlands, the author decides to actually install some creativity. So basically, Rimu ends up in Hotland. She passes by Alphys's lab, and she's about to make her headway to Asgore's castle when she gets blockaded by a massive laser wall. Rimu tries to break it. She realizes that she can't, so she goes to Alphys's lab. She runs into Alphys. Alphys is trying to like praise her and basically like, it's like, you look like someone out of those animes. Rimu's like, I'm gonna kill you. See what I mean? In comes Mettaton, exit stage left. They do the whole Mettaton fight. However, everything after the Mettaton fight actually changes when Rimu actually manages to damage Mettaton. So what does Mettaton do? Take all the plans he had for Frisk, wrap them up in a little ball, throw them in the trash, and realize, I gotta think on my feet. So instead of that, Rimu and Mettaton broker a deal. He asked Rimu, if you do a show with me, then I will tell you how to get past the laser walls. Rimu's like, reluctantly, because she's like, I don't know if I can even get past this barrier. So she's like, well, either I kill you, but then I wouldn't be able to get past the barrier, or I help you and you'd probably be able to get it through with me. And she basically reluctantly agrees. And so basically it's 2 chapters of Rimu acting like a stereotypical villain, basically just trying to wiggle into an acting career as best she can underneath, like, here's the script, baby. Oh, okay. You can make it up as you go on. They skip pretty much all of the canon stuff that Mettaton does because he knows that Rimu is just basically going to kick his ass regardless, and she has no. So it's like, it basically becomes a sort of hilariously mock show where they do like over the top gratuitous acting, and Rimu's like acting like the bad guy, and like she's having internal monologues like, oh, I hate this, 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 I hate this. I don't know. I want to kill them, but I can't because then I won't know. And Mettaton is actually tries to grow with Rimu because he understands, like, oh, Rimu is not an ordinary human. She's something else. So he's trying to still do his shtick while making concessions for Rimu by basically letting out some of her frustrations. This is where we get the Muffet cameo. Like, Muffet shows up at the end of the first act, and they even talk, and like Rimu and Muffet's like, I don't really care about those, so I'm just trying to get my spiders from the ruins. So yeah, basically does the Yamcha pose by signaling that Ringu beat up Muffet, or Muffet. And of course, we get like, and at the end, we're supposed to get a mock battle between Rimu and Mettaton EX. It's supposed to end with Mettaton actually beating Rimu to symbolize, like, well, it's the advertisement of the Mettaton products. But at the end, they're about to fight when Undyne shows the fuck up, basically calls out Rimu and said, "No, you're freaking betraying the whole thing." Yeah! And it basically turns into like a 2-1-1 fight between Mettaton and Rimu versus Undyne. And it's become so ridiculous. And then Alpha shows up. Basically, like, we're trying to help. We're like, can you just let us? Could you let her pass, please? And Undyne's like, fine. And then we got like a little sweet moment between Rimu and Rimu and Alphys, where Alphys says, "No, we're not yokai. I know what yokai are. We're not yokai." So you're not? No, yokai are completely different. We're monsters. But yokai's all I know. But what? Also, the fact that we have like a hilarious moment where like Rimu is like trying to figure out how to use a cell phone because guess what? Papyrus gave her a cell phone. But I like the Hotland chapters. It is a breath of fresh air in a very, very shitty storm. Like, if you want to read the story, just skip to the Hotlands area. Read that. Read nothing else. So we got to the final part. What would I change about this story? First off, give her the big plot. I don't care. That needs to go. Either, or if you want to incorporate, make it actually relevant. Like, I don't know, have them find Rimu immediately because she's literally just in the middle of the forest, just random, just face down in the dirt, sleeping. You can easily you can have Suika. Like, Suika's there. Like, just have Suika find her. They bring her to the shrine, and Marissa shows up, and you have like a little thing where like you can have a little side plot where like Marissa's trying to figure out what's going on with why Rimu is not sleeping. You can have other characters kind of show up periodically, wondering what's going on. Where's Rimu? Have them talk about the whole thing. Have them do like lore. Hell, have the Swerve be like one of the characters from Undertale just showing up at the shrine. Besides Flowey, of course. Have it be, because Flowey would be completely indisposed. I don't know. Have Toriel show up with Kassan. Like, that wouldn't be too hard. Like, have that side plot have meaning of just them actually showcasing what they're like. Like, hell, have Ron, have Chen, have Shimiya, hell, have Dorame, have them somehow contact Dorame, and like Dorame is like keeping quiet. It's like, yeah, not gonna say anything. But the main bulk of changes would come in the Rimu store, in the Rimu half. Basically, since we would know that Rimu would be in a dream, have the situation be that as all the other Touhou characters are trying to wake her up, it's actually messing with the events of the story. So you can have a mix of the pacifist, the neutral, and the genocide route. Like, oh, they're fighting, like Rimu's fighting Undyne normally. Like, they mess with Rimu, and then she just randomly turns into the Undyne mode. It would signify that something is happening, and you can even have like certain characters from Touhou show up. Granted, you would have to limit the characters. It really would only boil down to probably Dorame Sweet, Sumariko, maybe Satori, Yukari, of course. Like, Rimu could just spot Yukari in the distance. Like, you can literally have Yukari be like the WD Gaster of this story. Just like she thinks she sees Yukari, sees something else. Like, oh, Yukari, I know you're up to something, but she doesn't know. And have her get to know these characters more. Yes, I get it's supposed to be an abridged version of Undertale. but it doesn't make a lot of sense where just nothing changes and Rimu doesn't learn anything about it. Like you could easily transfer this in a lesson like isolationism, because Rimu doesn't understand other cultures. Like the technology with in Hotland, you could easily just interpret that as like Rimu got trying to understand other cultures. You can do a lot of neat lessons with this story. It's just as it is. It's such a waste of an idea that I can literally dedicate an entire video to just saying what I would fix about this story, or specifically just Rimu's half. That's sad. That's sad. Mm. But that is my review of Unsubstantial Underground Adventure. This has been Dark Symphony 777, and cut.